Welcome to Fun and Games Side Quests. Every episode is a different host sharing a video game they love and why they love it.
Hi folks, welcome to another episode of Side Quests. I, of course, am the series producer, editor, and original creator, Matt, aka Stormageddon. I am also one of the co-hosts over on the main show in the feed, Fun and Games, that I host with Jeff Moonen. I also have two other podcasts on the Certain Point of View podcast network, Screen Snark, which I host with the incredible Rachel Quirky Shank, and Reignite, which I host with the equally incredible Frankie Bradley Lestrange. I used to host CPOV Autographs. That show is now on hiatus, at least for the time being. But I'm also the freelance editor of the incredible Game Informer show hosted by one Alex Van Aken and a variety of other incredible folks. I believe recently one Marcus Stewart and Kyle Hilliard have been announced as the permanent co-hosts of that show. And so congrats to them. Glad that they're joining a permanent seat on that show that had had a rotating cast for quite some time since the recent change. I also am a podcast editor. I'm a DJ. I do lots of different things. If you want to check out all the stuff that I do, you can go to djstormageddon.com. But enough about my work. You know what this show is. I'm here to talk about a game I love and why I love it. And before we get into that, I just want to say that the game I'm talking about today is, of course, Star Wars Jedi Survivor, the incredible sequel to Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order. And up front, I do want to say that I was provided with a review code by Respawn Entertainment and EA. So thank you so much for that. But it does not affect why it is on this show. It is on this show because I absolutely love this game, and it's an improvement over the original, which I also loved in each and every conceivable way that I can think of. And so I just want to say up front, thank you for the review code, but my thoughts and opinions are my own because I genuinely love this game and would have done this probably even if I hadn't gotten a code. Enough of that jargon. Let's get into the actual bulk of this episode and talk about why I love this game. So when Jedi Fallen Order came out, I was really excited for it. I love Star Wars games. I am what I would call a Star Wars superfan. I tend to consume all of it, even the stuff that some people don't like. I really enjoyed Obi-Wan and the Book of Boba Fett, which I know a lot of folks had complaints about. But I understand the critiques of all Star Wars media. I just tend to enjoy them regardless. So with that said, I was very excited for Fallen Order, dove right in and loved it. It did have its issues. It was my introduction to a Dark Souls style game. I would go on to play Dark Souls 3 and then Elden Ring, and I think Fallen Order is really the reason that I took that risk. But I enjoyed that game so much. I enjoyed the story. I really loved the cast, and so when I heard there was going to be a sequel this year, I was very excited. It jumped to the top of my list as one of the AAA games I was most excited for. And when I finally got my hands on Survivor, I was nothing but impressed. Everything that had irked me about the first game, minor hiccups, small issues, map problems, combat issues, all of that stuff seems to have been improved on every level. Diversity of the collectibles. And we're going to get into more detail about that. To start, let's talk about the cast. It is incredible. They are really great, and they go above and beyond in this game. They were really good in the first game, but I think they take it to the next level in this game, especially the main cast. I mean, Cameron Monaghan as Cal Kestis has become one of my favorite Star Wars characters, which is great. I love the incredible Deborah Wilson as Asir Junda. I think she elevated her performance. She was great in the first game, but just got better. Newcomer to this game, Nashir Dalal? Sorry if I butchered your name, but he plays Bode Akuna, who is one of your companions throughout most of the second game and is really great. And of course, Tina Ivilev, which again, probably a name I'm butchering, who played Night Sister Marin, who we only got a little bit of in the first game because she joined the party kind of towards the end. We get to spend a lot more time with in this game. Of course, other actors like Cody Farron, who's playing Dagan Gera, who's a new character. Of course, the returning Daniel Roebuck as Grease Driftis, and so much more. I really think that these Star Wars games are so strong because of its incredible cast and the ability to tell the story and the narrative. I like the combat in these games, and I think when we get to the combat, there's a lot more to like in this one, but I play these kinds of games for the narrative, which is one of the reasons I think I bounced off of Dark Souls for so long, because I like an in-your-face, really in-depth and incredible narrative, which this game does provide. I'm not going to go too much into that narrative because I think it's something worth experiencing for yourself, but what you really need to know is that it's been several years since the last game Cal is out on his own, still trying to fight the Empire. He is making his way, trying to make a difference, and starting to get frustrated when he discovers some, I think it's New Republic tech or High Republic tech. I think it's High Republic tech that leads him to believe that there might be a haven where the Jedi and many others who are under the thumb of the Empire can escape to. And most of this game is figuring out how to get to that place. Along the way, you reunite with cast and characters from the first game, find out why you went your separate ways, and learn a lot more. There are some incredible highs and lows into this story. It takes a little time to ramp up, but if you're patient with it, like any other Star Wars story, there's a lot to chew on and a lot to dig into. I don't want to go much more beyond that because I really think if you liked the first game and you've been thinking about playing this game but haven't really dove in yet, it's worth going in knowing as little as possible. I do also have to shout out, actually, I didn't mention him earlier when we were talking about casts and characters, but there is an MVP character in this game. One Turgle, voiced by, of course, the infamous Richard Stephen Horvitz, who was Raz, who was Invader Zim, and Turgle is one of the standout side characters of the entire game. I do have to thank one Jesse Vitelli of Premier Games for bringing to light how important and integral this character was to the mythos of Star Wars and making me a Turgle stan as well. That said, let's move on to talking about the combat. So, lightsaber combat is something we all love doing in Star Wars games. It's kind of the reason we often play a lot of games centers around Jedi, is to use the Force and the lightsabers. What I like about this game is, unlike other Metroidvania and action-style games where a character goes on to do the second game, they come up with some inane reason for them to lose their powers or start you at square one. They don't do this here. Cal still knows Force Push and Force Pull and all of the basic abilities that you learned from the first game. The way they make you feel stronger is they have added lightsaber stances, so you can get a bunch of different stances that you can use for different weapon and fighting types, and then you get newer Force abilities that you learn or remember as you go on throughout the game. But all of the stuff that you had learned in Fallen Order, they don't take away. They let you keep so you can still feel as powerful as you were and only get more powerful. But let's focus on the lightsaber stances for a minute. Combat in this game functions a lot like the combat in the previous game, but the only difference here is now you have even more lightsaber stances. Besides dual-wielding, double-bladed, and single lightsaber, you also get a bunch of other stances that you can use, including a crossguard, sort of like how Kylo Ren wields his lightsaber, which essentially turns your lightsaber into a broadsword, which is incredible and so much fun. And then there are a couple of others. You get, I'm trying to remember them now. Oh, you get a lightsaber and a blaster, which is just really cool. It feels very Samurai Ronin kind of thing. I'm only saying that because I played Ishin recently, and you get a pistol and a sword in that game too. And I love that combination. They just give you a huge variety of different ways to fight that allow you to change up the combat and make it feel more unique. The problem with the first game is that after a while, I picked one kind of lightsaber stance and just stuck with it the whole time. Here, there's a lot more. Also, the skill trees that you build out with skill points, there's a larger variety now. It has all the stances, plus your Force abilities, plus your survival skills, so health and Force talent and all of that. And it just feels like there's a larger variety of things to do here. And I really love that about this game. I think it's one of the strengths of this game. And so it made the combat even more interesting, especially for someone like me who plays on not the easiest difficulty, but the one right above it, because I don't want to struggle through this game. But this game is not without its challenges, even if you're playing on a lower difficulty. I still struggled with some of the bosses. I think there's still a challenge to be had, but never feel bad about changing the difficulty. There were some bosses where I had to bump down the difficulty further because I just wanted to get through it. But it definitely feels more dynamic combat-wise than it had felt at any point in Fallen Order. And so I really, really am excited to see how they continue to grow this series. Without any spoilers, the game does end in a way that it indicates there will be another, and I am so hopeful for that because it has become one of my new favorite Star Wars franchises outside of The Mandalorian. Let's talk about the visuals and the music. When the game first came out, it did have some frame stutters. It did have some graphical issues. But for the most part, through patching, they fixed it. And by the time you're playing it now, by the time you're hearing this, most of that stuff has been fixed, at least on console. On PC, I know it was a much rockier launch. I am talking about the PS5 version. That is what I received a code for. But I didn't really have any issue at all. I had one game-breaking glitch that made me need to restart. But beyond that, The graphics were smooth almost throughout. There was minimal pop-in, and it mostly looked and sounded gorgeous. Special effects and the sound effects, top-notch Star Wars, perfect. And then the score, also incredible. It's probably one of my favorite video game scores in a while. I really, really enjoyed it. And I think it's been really interesting to see composers come in who aren't John Williams, still give that John Williams feel while making it their own. And it really was some of the best music in a Star Wars game I think I've ever heard, and I really loved it. Cycling back to the overall game, I think that the reason I love this game so much is because also they made it feel open world and Metroidvania at the same time, like the last game, but while fine-tuning some stuff. In this game, you can get side quests, known as rumors. They're pretty easy to do, and you always get rewards. Yes, let's talk about the rewards. I think that's related. So, in the first game, you would get, like, lightsaber parts and BD1 parts, and they all were fine. But in this game, you are able, and I can't believe I buried the lead here, you can fully customize your Cal Kestis. We're talking facial hair, actual on-your-head hair, shirts, coats, pants, weapons, BD1, all of it. You can customize all of it, and it's great. You can make, and all of the customizations that you incorporate are in every cutscene, which is also incredible. It's not one of those things where you look cool when you're walking around, but in the cutscenes, you're the default character. They really made it go all in on all of it. And so you could open a chest somewhere and find a beard or a hairstyle. And like you could make Cal look like he's a grunge rocker with a mullet and a handlebar mustache. You can make him look clean shaven and baby faced. You can kind of do whatever you want, which for me made it feel even more personal that this is my version of this character. This is how I envision this character. All of these different versions of Cal are canon, but it's just so cool that you can kind of make these choices. I got the digital deluxe edition, which offers clothing that looks like Luke, Han Solo, and Obi-Wan's clothing, which is also really cool. Later on, when you get the blaster, you can actually design the blaster to look like Han Solo's blaster, which I did, which was really neat. And this is all to say the side quests are a lot more fun in this game because every time you do a side quest, you find a thing, a lightsaber part, a customization option, a color scheme, literally any of that stuff. And if you choose to ignore the side quest, then you'll just have less options for customization. But if you really want to explore and see all of this stuff, you can do some wild things with how you make Cal and BD look, as well as your lightsaber and pistol. And so I think it's really neat. I really do think that adds so much more to the exploration of this game. The map is still a little confusing, and I often got stuck like trying to figure out a path to a mission. But that said, this game is fun to explore. So even if you get a little sidetracked, there are some rewards worth finding, even if you're not getting to where you want to go. But I would like in the third game to even fine-tune the map a little more. I think because the map is 3D like the game and multi-level, it does get confusing. But as far as 3D Metroidvanias go, like we really only had the Metroid Prime series, and now this game is kind of fusing Dark Souls with Metroidvania and does it in a really interesting and unique way. It's easily one of my favorite games of 2023, and that's while currently playing Tears of the Kingdom and having played Hi-Fi Rush. Also both games that I'm truly in love with, but this was a game that I was looking forward to since the day it was announced, and I'm so incredibly grateful to not only not be disappointed, but to be absolutely infatuated with. I haven't stopped thinking about it, even though I've moved on from it to play some other games, but I fully intend to leave it on my PS5 pretty much indefinitely so I can go back to it and do all those side quests, do a New Game Plus. I didn't even mention that. There's a New Game Plus, so you can take all of your abilities and equipment over to New Game Plus, and the difficulty bumps up a bit, and you can continue explore and relive the game again with everything that you've already unlocked and continue to unlock more. It's got one of my favorite stories in a Star Wars game. There are twists and turns and unexpected things that happen throughout the whole game, and I really cannot believe in 2023 I got a Star Wars game this good. You know, I was really blown away by the narrative of the Guardians of the Galaxy game not that long ago. Strong stories are what drive me to want to play games. As much as I like the mechanics and combat and the game loop, which is important, story is ultimately what I go to video games for, just like other media. And I can say without a shadow of a doubt that Star Wars Jedi Survivor is one of the best pieces of Star Wars media out there, especially if you like intuitive gameplay and incredible scenery, and it is definitely worth your time. In fact, I can also say, even if you're not a fan of Star Wars, I know one Kenneth Shepard over at Kotaku has written a few articles about it, but he has been enjoying playing the game, even though he doesn't care about the story, because the mechanics are so tight and the gameplay is so tight that he's been enjoying it as well. And so if you're someone who is not even really a huge fan of Star Wars, but is curious what Jedi Survivor is all about, I think it's worth taking that risk, because I think the mechanics, the systems, and the gameplay will carry you through, even if you don't care about a Star Wars story. If you're a Star Wars fan, though, and you liked the first one, without a doubt, I recommend this game 110%. It does nothing but build on and improve upon what the first game did. As far as I'm concerned, it's the platonic ideal of a sequel. It just took what we had before and made it better. And if they continue to do that with this franchise, I will never stop playing them. So with that, thank you for listening to me ramble about this incredible game. Thank you again one more time to Respawn and EA for providing me a review code so I can get into this game early and do something like this on side quests, fall in love with a game early on and get out a side quest in a timely manner about how much I love it, because that doesn't happen as often as I would like. And of course, thank you for listening. If you want to find me, you can find me at DJ_Stormageddon over on Twitter, which is where I'm most active. I'm also on Blue Sky if you happen to be on there. I'm just DJ Stormageddon there. They don't like underscores. You can find all of my work at djstormageddon.com. I also have 3 incredible podcasts that I do, Fun and Games, which is right here in this feed, Screen Snark, and then Reignite, where we are currently going through Dragon Age Origins and making our way through the Dragon Age franchise after conquering the Mass Effect franchise. I edit for the Game Informer show. Definitely go check that out. Alex Van Aken rules. And with that, I will sign off and leave you with what we always leave you with. Thank you for listening, and happy gaming. Video games are a unique medium.
They can tell stories,
Immerse us in strange, fantastic worlds,
blur the very boundaries of our reality.
But at the end of the day, video games are fun, whatever fun is to you.
I'm Jeff Moonen.
And I am Matt, aka Stormageddon.
And on Fun and Games, we talk about the history, trends, and community of video games.
It's a celebration of all the games we play and all the fun we find within them.
And there's so many more games out there, so we hope you'll share in that conversation with us.
Fun and Games podcast with Matt and Jeff. Find us on certainpov.com or wherever you get your podcasts.
And happy gaming.
Hey there, Screen Beans. Have you heard about Screen Snark?
Rachel, this is an ad break. They aren't screen beans until they listen to the show.
Fine. Potential Screen Beans. You like movies and TV shows, right?
I mean, who doesn't? Screen Snark is a casual conversation about the movies and television shows that are shaping us as we live our everyday lives.
That's right, Matt. We have a chat with at least one incredible guest every episode, hailing from all walks. We've interviewed chefs,
writers, costumers, musicians,
yoga teachers, comedians, burlesque dancers,
folks in the film and TV industry,
and more.
We'd be delighted for you to join us every other Monday on the Certain POV Podcast Network.
Or wherever you get your podcasts, fresh and tasty off the presses.
What? That's not...
Can I call them Screen Beans now?
Fine.
Screen Beans!
So tune in and we'll see you at the movies or on a couch somewhere.
'Cause you're all Screen Beans now.
You will be mine. Aurora.
CPOV. CertainPOV.com.